evening, everybody. I'm Michelle Thomson. I'm the Managing Director of Business for Scotland. Our debate, should Scotland be an independent country, is now providing a focus for serious thought and consideration as to how we best shape Scotland in the future and to what kind of vision we aspire. Always politically aware, never politically active, I've now found myself taking part in debates and speaking engagements the length and breadth of Scotland, originally as part of my role in Business for Scotland, but also as a woman who doesn't really have a vested interest beyond that of a desire to see the best outcome for my fellow citizens. I've watched the landscape of Scotland evolve during my lifetime. Major triggers for change included the election of Margaret Thatcher and Tony Blair, the re-establishment of the Scottish Parliament, and the recent landslide victory of the SNP that's led to this very referendum. These were the outward markers, but much more importantly were those signals about how the Scottish people felt about themselves. As somebody who grew up with the received wisdom of Scotland being too wee, too poor and too stupid to run its own affairs, it seemed for a while that we have allowed ourselves to accept less in many other areas too. Mass unemployment, mass child poverty, an appalling health record, and a gap between the richest and the poorest that is ever growing has been a feature of some parts of Scotland since I was eligible to vote, and that wasn't yesterday. This speaks volumes to me about the deeply embedded lack of self-confidence in the public psyche and a level of trust in a political system that's quite simply just not been justified. At its simplest, this debate to me is about making a positive choice that embeds confidence. Having this supports the development of bold visions, the release of positive energy and ambitions subsequently realised. The idea of a marketing slogan being UK OK is frankly bereft of ambition. I've got a grand vision for Scotland which is much, much more than simply OK. My vision is based on some of the values that I most identify with. Here's some examples. There shall be a constitution that enshrines the rights of all people who choose to live and give to Scotland, regardless of colour, creed, wealth, health, or sexual orientation. This constitution will be developed by the people, for the people, and will provide a framework for the type of society we wish to see based on the values the sovereign people of Scotland most cherish. There will be a mature democracy where the elected government is truly representative of the choices expressed by voters, where this representation acts in the best interests of those by whom they're elected and are answerable to those by whom they're elected, where there's a participation and engagement from all in the processes that shape society. Children shall not be brought up in poverty levels comparable with third world countries, as is the case in some areas of Scotland. There shall be an education system available and accessible for all, which supports and drives a new Scottish enlightenment. There shall be a universal health service that continues to fulfil its original purpose and is available to those that need it most in our society. There shall be a positive business environment where entrepreneurialism is encouraged and supported, that provides thought leadership to the world and sustainable employment. There should be a mix of various types of businesses, and we shall learn from other countries who rate the highest in health, wealth, and happiness. There shall be a dynamic and innovative cultural environment where radical new ideas are welcomed and where we celebrate rather than fear other cultures, and through which we all gain more enlightened self-expression at a personal and a civic level. There shall be no weapons of mass destruction on Scottish soil. This part of the earth that we inhabit will be nurtured and protected for our children and our children's children. We shall make choices based on sustainability as well as profit. There will be a society that's recognised for its core values of mutual respect, integrity, fairness, and opportunity for all. Of course, in reality, this is just a start, and there could have been many, many more pages of ideals. I make no apology for my ambition. Vision should always be stretching to the point of unattainable and underpinned by hope, not fear. So let's step back and look at each excuse in turn, starting with the too poor. Not according to David Cameron, who states, supporters of independence will always be able to cite examples of small, independent and thriving economies across Europe, such as Finland, Switzerland and Norway. It would be wrong to suggest that Scotland could not be another such successful, independent country. Thanks to the collection of income and expenditure data taken from the Government Expenditure Revenue Scotland, or GERS, we now understand that Scotland's a wealthy country and its finances, in fact, are stronger than that of the UK. It has a rich and diverse economy, both onshore, life sciences, tourism, financial services, food and drink, manufacturing and so on, and offshore, and it's the second most favoured location after London for inward investment. We collect more tax per head of population in the UK, and we've done so every year for the past 33 years. Last year alone, we raised 9.5% of the tax take with only 8.3% of the population, but we only got back 9.3%. If we total this difference for the last 5 years, Scotland would have been £8.3 billion better off. We are the 14th in the OECD list of wealthiest countries by GDP per head of population, against the UK at 18th, with the top 10 wealthiest countries, including 7 of a similar size to Scotland. We've huge potential in renewables, with 25% of Europe's tidal energy, 25% of Europe's wind and 10% of Europe's wave, and still have significant oil reserves, at least the same again, with around 15 to 24 billion barrels of oil with a worth of certainly over £1 trillion. In common with most other Western economies, Scotland too has a deficit, but again, it's less than that of the UK, and we also average lower public spending. Taking this 33-year snapshot, we now understand the cost to Scotland in being saddled with our share of debt interest payments, an incredible £64 billion in debt we didn't even need. Over the same period, given our geographic share of oil revenues as an independent nation, Scotland's required borrowing would have been 0. So the question is not, can we afford to be independent, it is, can we afford not to be? We can have all of our own opinion in this debate, but we cannot have our own facts. It's clear and agreed by all that Scotland's not too poor. So what about the too stupid element? We've contributed to the world in a way that far exceeds our geography or our medium-sized population. Our efforts and achievements in the sciences, engineering, medicine, in fact, almost every human endeavour are second to none. There's not a corner of the world that's not been affected by or connected with the Scots. 5 Scottish universities have been placed in the top 200 of the world's higher education systems, and recently Professor Peter Higgs of Edinburgh University won the Nobel Prize for Physics. So we're certainly not too stupid then. Is it that we're too small? Smaller than the average population size? No, we're in fact an average sized country. Of the top 10 wealthiest countries in the world, only 2 have large populations, which is America and Australia. So too small for what exactly, I'd ask? Too small to weather a serious economic storm, except that, of course, medium-sized countries have proved themselves much more adaptable to those than the larger ones. Only recently, we've learned that Ireland is able to borrow money in the international money markets cheaper than the UK, a clear signal of a growing economy and a better weathering of the recent economic storms. What do we mean by this term independence anyway? For me, it's not about separation. It's not even about nationalism. In fact, I regard myself as an internationalist. Neither am I swayed by the overt British nationalism espoused by the No campaign. It's certainly not about Devo Max, Devo Plus, Devo with knobs on either. They are not realistic, guaranteed options, either in the ballot paper or in the future. Fundamentally, independence ensures that decisions that affect Scotland are made by those living in Scotland. Independence is the norm for other countries, and to me, it's a moral imperative. Part of the meaning of independence is about obtaining the optimum number of fiscal levers. There's no talk of ending the geographic union. For goodness sake, Britain's a landmass and it's not going anywhere fast. The social unions, most of our friends and families across these isles. The currency union, the monarchy, or the European Union. Of course, continued membership of the latter is now at significant risk due to the continued rise of UKIP in England, and this is a major cause of uncertainty for business. Some would ask, given the plan for a continued sterling zone and pan-Scotland, rest of UK interest rates, whether there's really truly benefit in being independent. Most people are not aware of the extensive list of the tax take that would now accrue to Scotland instead of to Westminster. Bear with me, this is a long list. VAT, national insurance contributions, our geographical share of the North Sea oil and gas, corporation tax, fuel duties, inheritance tax, tobacco duties, interest and dividends, alcohol duties, vehicle excise duty, rent and other current transfers, capital gains tax, inheritance tax, general other taxes, income and wealth, insurance premium tax, airport passenger duty, betting and gaming duties, climate change levy, aggregates levy, and the crown of them all, the Crown estate income, including shoreline the 11 miles out to sea. Wouldn't that give us significant benefit? Much more, much more, I'd suggest, in the recent talk of devolving the tax take from capital gains tax and inheritance tax. They add up to 1.007% of Scotland's overall tax take. Indeed, we now understand that if we were to continue at the current rate of devolution, it'll take a further 170 years to reach full fiscal economy. What might it mean for my sector, residential property in Edinburgh? There will be an independence bounce. As the eyes of the world look to Scotland afresh, we can expect a renewed interest from affinity Scots worldwide, from developers looking to provide new homes, and from people where the Scottish brand is known and really appreciated. The investment market will offer opportunities as premium Edinburgh property still offers relatively good value when compared with other world capital cities. Take note, business follows the money, and rather than limiting development projects, independence will result in an increase in them. Let's not forget the spin-off for various suppliers too, the construction, refurbishment and maintenance trades, the increased infrastructure demands, property finishing specialisms, as well as the professional services such as lawyers, surveyors and accountants. Prior to working for myself, I delivered large change programs in various corporate companies. The trick is to make a real difference by ensuring just a few key elements are in place, what we call the difference that makes the difference. Often this removes the management old guard, if you like. A difficult time for them, but it's understood that they may cling to their vested interests and lack the vision to effect real and significant change. Does that sound familiar? I believe the change triggered by Scotland voting yes will also bring change within Westminster too. For too long now, the political union's been content to meet the needs predominantly of London and the South East to the detriment of other areas. Actions designed to, in fact, maintain and increase the power base of the establishment has resulted in the UK becoming the fourth most unequal country in the world. Frankly, a disgraceful record when you consider the human and economic waste. There's both an economic and moral cost with this level of unfairness in our society, and countries which are more unequal do not grow as well and are frankly less economically stable. We have to change our system, where more than 1 in 5 of our children in Scotland are growing up in poverty. At least 50,000 more children will be living in poverty by 2020, and 1 in 9 children in Scotland live in severe poverty. We have to change the fact that women are particularly disadvantaged in terms of unequal pay and occupational segregation. Even a 6% rise in female labour market activity would boost tax revenue by 700 million. An expansion of childcare services would also create around 35,000 new jobs in the sector. We have to drive to the top. rather than race to the bottom with 0 hours contracts. We will not undercut India and China in low-cost production and can only outperform in quality goods or services. We can design a much simpler tax system that incentivises longer-term growth and risk-taking and identify sectors in which we can excel and nourish them. We can build on our brand strength, including Brand Scotland, particularly where this allows for premium pricing. In other words, it's fundamentally about powers for a purpose, the opportunity to create a fairer, wealthier, as well as a more democratic society. In summary, this opportunity presented by independence is so significant. It gives us all the chance to stop and consider what sort of society we'd like to see for our children and our children's children. It gives us the opportunity to look afresh at where we are and where we'd like to be. Most importantly, it offers us a chance for us all to take part and make it real. Let's not have thinking that's too small and ensure we all have massive ambition. Thank you.